I'm Lloyd Evans and you're watching the John Cedars channel from the bunker. And in this video, we must talk about the meeting that Jehovah's Witnesses are attending this week. So the week of December 7th to December 13th. This came to my attention recently. Here is the relevant part of the Our Christian Life and Ministry meeting workbook. You'll see there for December 7th to 13th, the meeting is based on Leviticus 10 and 11. The meeting is divided into three sections: treasures from God's Word, apply yourself to the field ministry, and living as Christians. In each one of these sections, the rules on shunning are in some way alluded to. So here, for example, in Treasures from God's Word, you can see these are the lessons that the governing body want witnesses to take from Leviticus chapters 10 to 11. Love for Jehovah, stronger than love for family. Jehovah struck Nadab and Abihu dead for offering unauthorized fire. Their bodies were removed from the camp. Jehovah commanded Aaron and his other sons not to display grief. And then it cites a 2011 July 15th watchtower, which I remember very well because it likened the situation with Aaron's sons Nadab and Abihu to the disfellowshipping rule, and said, well, just as Aaron wasn't allowed to grieve his sons, wasn't even, and if you think about it, this is thought crime, just as Aaron wasn't allowed to grieve the execution of his sons Nadab and Abihu, so should parents of disfellowshipped children just move on, basically. Move along and not think too much, not become too consumed by negative feelings because they now have to treat their disfellowshipped children as though they're dead. So that's more or less what that watchtower there that's cited was saying. Then you have apply yourself to the field ministry. The final talk here, theme, how was Moses' anger with Eleazar and Ithamar appeased? This relates to a question from readers from February 15th, 2011. And this also alludes to Aaron's sons Nadab and Abihu being executed for offering quote-unquote illegitimate fire. In other words, for not doing their job properly. Because what then apparently happened, according to the account in Leviticus, is that two other sons of Aaron, Eleazar and Ithamar, also made a mistake, and Moses got all angry at these two surviving sons, and Aaron was able to placate Moses and essentially save his sons from being executed for not doing things quite the way Moses would like. So this also alludes to the Nadab and Abihu story, which Jehovah's Witnesses link to the disfellowshipping command. And then finally, in the final section, living as Christians, you have this section here. We show love by supporting Jehovah's discipline, discussion. That means the audience will offer comments. Play the video, maintain loyalty with a unified heart. Now, this particular video was released in 2016. I've covered it on the channel. It is, in my opinion, one of the most grotesque pieces of video propaganda that Jehovah's Witnesses have released. This was a dramatization along the lines of the shunning video that got shown the same year at the Remain Loyal to Jehovah convention, showing Jehovah's Witness parents shunning their child who was disfellowshipped. And Jehovah's Witnesses this week are being asked to sit through this video and contemplate how important it is to pretend that your disfellowshipped children are dead, and how important it is to support Jehovah's discipline, you have here a page of the workbook headed "We Show Love by Supporting Jehovah's Discipline." So this is the material witnesses will be looking at as this particular item is gone through. Wouldn't it be interesting if we could sit in and listen to an example of how this item is being presented? Well, we can, because it seems that this particular meeting has been leaked, either leaked or otherwise made available on YouTube. I'm not entirely sure how this has come about, whether this is just a random meeting that has somehow found its way onto YouTube, or more likely, in my opinion, whether this is a model meeting that is made available on jw.org by the organization in the event that witnesses, for whatever reason, can't hold their meeting even via Zoom, or for whatever reason need to listen in to just a version of the meeting for that week's material being conducted. Either way, this is a legit recording of this week's meeting that we're now going to be watching for this particular item, "We Show Love by Supporting Jehovah's Discipline."
Well, continuing on our theme of loyalty to Jehovah, we'll now consider a part on the subject, "We Show Love by Supporting Jehovah's Discipline." Now, this part will include a video, and we'll have some opportunity for some audience participation. So let's now give our attention to Brother Waddington as he covers this subject.
Over the past month, our study of Leviticus has highlighted the fact that Jehovah is a holy and a clean God, and he expects the same of his worshipers. Now that means that each of us individually have the responsibility to keep ourselves morally and spiritually clean. But now when the individual at times doesn't do that, it's now the responsibility of the congregation to act, to preserve the moral cleanliness of the entire congregation. And it does so by the disfellowshipping arrangement. Now this is a theocratic action. The Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 5 shows that the congregation has the right and really the obligation to remove unrepentant wrongdoers. However, we don't want to see this disfellowshipping arrangement simply as some cold disciplinary action, a threat that tries to motivate people, well, be good or we're going to kick you out. No, it's an arrangement that's based on love. One, it's love for Jehovah, for his name, for his clean standards. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the part. But two, it's love for the individual wrongdoer. And now, in order to demonstrate this, I invite you to open your Bibles to Hebrews chapter 12, verses 5 and 6. And we're going to read there. It's Hebrews 12, 5 and 6. And this is where it demonstrates that this disfellowshipping action, it's discipline, but it is an expression of love. Hebrews 12, 5 and 6. "And you have entirely forgotten the exhortation that addresses you as sons. My son, do not belittle the discipline from Jehovah, nor give up when you are corrected by him. For those whom Jehovah loves, he disciplines. In fact, he scourges everyone whom he receives as a son." And now at this point, we want to open up to the audience a question. Based on this scripture here in Hebrews 12, why can we say that disfellowshipping is an expression of love? Brother Chester?
Well, just as the father disciplines his son, Jehovah is just disciplining his people. He wants to make sure that they are doing things properly, but when we don't follow through in those ways, we do need correction of some sort.
Thank you, Brother Chester. And Sister Waddington?
I like how it mentions at the end of verse 5 when it says, "Nor give up when you are corrected by him." If it was not out of love, then a person would not be able to get back up and regain their relationship with him.
Very nice. Thank you.
Isn't it chilling to consider that those of us who are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses with perhaps believing parents or believing family, that they could be sat in the audience at a meeting like this, nodding along, agreeing to this? Oh yes, disfellowshipping. It's all about love, you know. It's not about emotional blackmail. Oh no, we would never do that. We would never threaten people with getting booted out and with not being spoken to by their family if they don't toe the line, if they don't do what we're expecting. That's totally not what disfellowshipping is about. It's all about love, and we can prove it. And then this brother Waddington, who seems like some kind of robot to me, he doesn't quite look human. He's so cold, isn't he? So cold and bereft of any sort of warmth or humanity even. Anyway, they quote this verse in Hebrews 12, verse 5 and 6. My son, do not belittle the discipline from Jehovah, nor give up when you are corrected by him. For those whom Jehovah loves, he disciplines. In fact, he scourges everyone whom he receives as a son. Without wanting to get too atheist on you all, that sounds to me like an abusive relationship. Oh, I love you. I love you. And to prove how much I love you, I'm going to scourge you. I mean, come on. That's messed up. It isn't loving, actually, to either scourge someone or separate them from their family. And if this is such a scriptural arrangement, if this is such a theocratic action, as Brother Waddington puts it, how come they've only been doing it, Jehovah's Witnesses, since 1952, despite the faithful slave being selected in 1919? So 1919 all the way up to 1952, they don't have this theocratic action in place. And even then in 1952, there was a door, an opportunity for people to get out of the organization if they simply stopped believing. They could leave on conscientious grounds by disassociating right up to 1981 without their family being required to shun them. It was only in 1981, the September 15th, 1981 Watchtower, when that door slammed shut, meaning effectively that when you get baptized as a Jehovah's Witness, that's it. You are locked into the organization until your dying breath, and you never get to change your mind. You never get to change your mind without this cruel, heartless punishment in the form of shunning being visited on you. Oh, but don't worry. It's all an act of love.
And now, even though it is a theocratic arrangement and it is an arrangement based in love, it doesn't mean that there are no challenges or emotional pain involved, especially when a close relative stops serving Jehovah. Well, now in the following video, this video is going to highlight the challenges, but also the reason why it's important to loyally support this arrangement. And let's watch the video entitled Maintain Loyalty with a Unified Heart.
My name is Gabriella. Ben and I have always enjoyed attending the meetings. But lately, it's been difficult. Something was missing. Our son. It was like watching a movie of someone else's family. I couldn't believe this was happening to us. Our son Levi was no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. The elders and friends in the congregation were so supportive and understanding. Many of them watched Levi grow up, give his first talk, get baptized. I was so torn. I was disappointed in Levi for leaving Jehovah, but I was more disappointed in myself. I felt like we failed him somehow. I kept wondering how he was doing. Was he okay?
We're only 2.5 minutes in to this grotesque propaganda video, and hopefully you can already see what I mean when I say this is one of the worst things that's ever come out of Watchtower's audio video department. Just a highly manipulative video encouraging parents to shun their children. That's what this is all about. And I've obviously seen this video a number of times now, having spoken about it on my channel in the past. But let's remember, witnesses are watching it this week. They're being made to sit down in their homes, watching or staring at their laptops or tablets, and they're being forced as a congregation to watch this, and not just watch it, but like it. They're not watching this from the point of view of, you know, is this really acceptable behavior for parents to pretend their child is dead or treat him as though he's dead just because he's had sex with a consenting adult or done some other thing that is against the many, many rules that Jehovah's Witnesses live by. They have to respect this. They have to agree with this. There's no latitude at all for viewing this from a skeptical standpoint. And watching it again for the first time in a while, it's interesting how new details jump out at me. The part where she says, it was like watching a movie of someone else's family.
It was like watching a movie of someone else's family.
Yeah, good luck finding that kind of movie where the heroes are the parents who cut their child out of their lives over an ideological difference, or over their child having sex with a consenting adult. Let's watch that movie, shall we, where the heroes start shunning their son or daughter for doing something that's perfectly normal, something that is entirely unremarkable when it comes to young people perhaps exploring their sexuality or doing something else that really doesn't make a huge difference, such as smoking a cigarette or smoking weed, or heaven forbid, changing their minds about what their religious beliefs are. Let's watch those parents cut those children out of their lives, cease being parents to their children on some entirely inconsequential grounds, and then go to the Kingdom Hall and be friends and spiritual brothers and sisters of even the very worst of humanity, so long as they're considered repentant, of even confessed child abusers who have convinced elders that they are repentant. Oh, well, we'll be your friend. We're shunning our child because they've had sex with a consenting adult, but we're now going to be all pally with a child abuser because they're repentant, because they have gone through Jehovah's procedure for discipline. It's such a messed up situation, such a messed up policy. And yet this very week, this is what Jehovah's Witnesses are being asked to embrace and celebrate.
Then, as hard as the past few weeks had been, it just got harder. I knew what the Bible said about quit mixing in company with anyone who is not living according to Christian standards, but I never thought that scripture would one day apply to me. Later that evening, a brother was talking about the example of Korah's sons. Jehovah confirmed that he was using Moses to lead his people, not Korah. When the people were told to move away from the rebels' tents, what would Korah's sons do? Would they put loyalty to family ahead of loyalty to Jehovah? The Bible tells us that his sons remained loyal to Jehovah and were blessed for it.
So we're again dipping into the Old Testament tales of gore and savagery in support of the disfellowshipping arrangement. And let's just be clear, the disfellowshipping arrangement, as practiced by Jehovah's Witnesses, is not a biblical arrangement. I've already done a video on this. I've discussed 14 different Bible verses that entirely, or either partially or entirely, contradict disfellowshipping as practiced by Jehovah's Witnesses. Again, if disfellowshipping is a biblical practice, why did it take Jehovah's Witnesses until 1952 to start doing it, even though the faithful slave was supposedly selected invisibly in 1919? This is not a biblical practice. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that parents should shun their children just for not believing as they do, or at least nowhere in the New Testament. In order to support this grotesque practice, what Watchtower does is it goes to the Old Testament, where, for example, someone gets executed for collecting wood on the wrong day, or where we learn that gay people deserve to be executed. These are the books. This is the part of the Bible canon that Watchtower leans on when trying to justify shunning as it prescribes for Jehovah's Witnesses. And in this case, the story that they are going to, we've already heard about Nadab and Abihu, Aaron's sons, who were executed on the spot by Jehovah for doing a temple ceremony the wrong way. And now we have the example of Korah, who challenged the leadership of Moses. His sons had a decision to make as to whether they stuck with their family, with Korah, or whether they physically distanced themselves so that Jehovah could basically make the ground open up and swallow Korah for daring to challenge Moses' authority. So Korah's sons had to be comfortable with Jehovah literally killing or executing Korah for this challenge on Moses' authority. That's the example. that Jehovah's Witnesses need to look to. That's the argument that the organization's making as to why disfellowshipping is something that witnesses should adhere to.
That night, after the meeting, I told Ben about the text I received from Levi. I told him everything. How I miss Levi so much, but that I also wanted to be loyal to Jehovah, like Korah's sons. Ben admitted that he too had been struggling with feelings like mine. But then, he said something that I hadn't thought of. If we were to stand between Levi and the discipline he needs, we would in effect be blocking an expression of Jehovah's love from reaching him. In fact, it's our very loyalty to Jehovah that could save his life. We agreed to continue to put our trust in Jehovah and stay loyal to him. It's been 5 years now, and while Levi still hasn't returned to Jehovah, I haven't given up hope on him. Until that day, I'm staying busy as a regular pioneer and focusing my energies on helping others learn about Jehovah. I've come to experience firsthand the truth of Psalm 97:10. Jehovah really does guard his loyal ones.
What do you even say to that? Well, apparently it has a happy ending, because the mother who is shunning her son Levi gets to look contentedly into the distance because everything's okay, because she's pioneering. When you're pioneering, when you're busying yourself in Jehovah's service, when you're recruiting other people into your family-destroying cult, it just takes the edge off this sort of thing. You can put to the back of your mind the fact that you are acting in an entirely immoral and inhumane way towards your own flesh and blood. Just allows you to put that to the back of your mind because you're busy, you're doing something, you're filling your time, and that just, it's a distraction. And then we have this repeated argument that this is a loving thing, and this is something that the audience are going to be asked to revisit, because we're now going to go to the comments. The audience doesn't miss a beat in saying, yes, well, obviously they're right. Obviously this is an act of love, and we would be standing between Jehovah's discipline and our loved one if we failed to shun them, because we would be effectively nullifying the power of the disfellowshipping arrangement. We would be removing the emotional blackmail element of disfellowshipping, which is an unloving thing to do. That's literally what we're going to hear now in the comments.
Well, now we're going to ask some questions to our audience to highlight some of the main points from the video. The first question: what pain do Christian parents feel when a child leaves Jehovah? The Noe family?
Well, there's not another human that a parent has invested more in or loves more than they love their child, and no one else that they want to serve Jehovah more. So it can be a very painful experience, and a parent can feel very helpless when their child leaves.
It's very true. Brother Coletti.
And our sister mentioned that she was disappointed in her son for leaving the truth, but she was more disappointed in herself. So it could be that these parents struggle with feelings of failure regarding their parenthood.
Yeah, very true. Sister Chitrakar.
also the parents, like in this case, Gabriela felt very disbelief that it can happen to them. So it's good to keep that in mind that it can happen to any family, unfortunately, but Jehovah will help them to get over it.
And here's where we want to take a moment and talk to you parents out there, especially you moms. When a child leaves the truth, leaves serving Jehovah, it does no good to blame yourself or try to second guess every decision, wondering if you could have done something different or better. You created an environment for them to make the best decision possible. And once you've done that, the child carries the responsibility for their own decision. But that doesn't mean that there are no negative feelings. But here's where the congregation can help out.
Unbelievable. You created an environment for your child to make the best decision possible. Do you mean, Brother Waddington, you indoctrinated your children into our cult? Is that what you mean when you talk about creating an environment, indoctrinating them to think that if they want to survive Armageddon, they darn well better get baptized as young as possible, as young as 6 or 7, there are examples in the literature. Get them dunked as quickly as possible, and then they're committed. And don't worry, because you've created the environment for them to make the correct decision of being Jehovah's Witnesses. Interesting as well that Brother Waddington singles out you mothers. Well, it's especially the mothers, isn't it? It's especially the mothers who are going to be in touch with their emotions, in touch with their humanity on this. You brothers, you husbands, you fathers, you're going to be cool with all this, aren't you? Bit of sexism there, perhaps, Brother Waddington?
In our second question, how can the congregation support the faithful family members? Brother Mason?
Well, as demonstrated in the video, they can definitely offer their comfort, give them their reassurance of their love, and also Jehovah's support for their loyalty that they display.
Thank you. And Brother Emke?
And another thing that the mother said was that the congregation was very understanding. And to be understanding, that requires listening on our part. So by being there, listening to them, being empathetic with them can also be a great support in itself.
Yes. And Brother Block?
We can perhaps try and fill a role that was lost by the disfellowshipped one. Maybe we can be their spiritual son or daughter, or spiritual mother, or father, or sister, or brother. Really just spending time with them can help as well.
Very nice practical suggestions.
Yes, practical suggestion there, Brother Block. We can replace their family. If they've lost their disfellowshipped son or their disfellowshipped daughter, we can be their spiritual son or daughter. We can be their family. Why do they need their actual son or daughter when we can take their place? By love bombing them, which is all that's being described here. Love bombing. Inundating the parents who are shunning their children and affirming that they're making the right decision by just surrounding them with empathy and with compassion and, oh yeah, it's difficult, but hey, at least you're pioneering. That's going to take the edge off things, isn't it? How manipulative. How manipulative. You go ahead and do this awful thing that we're telling you to do, because don't worry, we're going to surround you with love and affirmation. We'll be your family.
Now, our third question, what Bible account was shown there in the video that illustrates the importance of loyalty to Jehovah over loyalty to family? Sister Moss.
Well, we have the example of Korah and his sons, and we know they actually had to separate themselves from their family and take their side on Jehovah's side and supporting his representative Moses. And no doubt this was not an easy thing for them to do, but because they did it, we know that Jehovah blessed them very greatly for it.
Thank you. And now taking that Bible example and applying it today, how do we put loyalty to Jehovah above loyalty to family? Brother Moss?
I thought that was a beautiful statement she made, that if we were to stand between Levi and the discipline that he needs, it's like blocking Jehovah from being able to show him his expression of love. So that discipline is so important. So we want to never give up, stay busy, and then with time, like she said, never give up hope. Maybe Jehovah can move them to the correct direction.
Thank you, Brother Moss. And that's a powerful sentence, to stand between Levi and the discipline that he needs. Now, how could family members, sometimes even well-meaning, stand between or interfere with Jehovah's discipline? Sister Waddington.
With the example of our sister, she received a text message before the noon meal. Had she responded to that, had lunch with her son, then gone to the meeting, would that information have the same effect on her heart? But she shared with her husband after the meeting that she received the text, and they were able to have a conversation and be resolved in their decision to uphold Jehovah and his regulations.
Very good. Now, like we mentioned, this is a loving arrangement, love for the wrongdoer. But above all, it's love for Jehovah, for his name, for his reputation, for his standard of holiness. So while we hope that this wrongdoer will respond to Jehovah's love, whether they do or not, we show our love by supporting Jehovah's discipline. Now let's turn our attention back over to our meeting chairman.
Thank you very much, Brother Waddington. Yeah, very nice coverage of that part. And certainly want to thank our audience for their really good comments, very appropriate and insightful comments.
Well, I have a few words for those comments. Good and insightful. Well, insightful perhaps in terms of shedding light on how inhumane this organization is, but certainly not good. And again, chilling to think that so many of our parents, I'm talking now about ex-Jehovah's Witnesses watching this, so many of our parents will be attending a meeting like this very week, being asked to watch that dramatization and nod along, not just with the dramatization, but with the comments of the kind that we've just heard. Brother Moss there calling it a beautiful statement that by failing to shun Levi, this couple would have been standing between Jehovah's discipline and their son. That's apparently beautiful. What's beautiful about two parents treating their son, their own flesh and blood, as though he's dead? What's beautiful about that, Brother Moss? And then you have Sister Waddington, who I'm assuming is Brother Waddington's wife. I think it's a fairly safe guess. And she just loves the fact that the mother ignores the text message and doesn't reach out to her son and carries through with the shunning and then goes to the meeting, because if she'd have gone to the meeting having replied to the text message, having, I don't know, had a conversation with her disfellowshipped son, then what effect would the material have had on her heart?
With the example of our sister, she received a text message before the noon meal. Had she responded to that, had lunch with her son, then gone to the meeting, would that information have the same effect on her heart?
What utter twaddle, Sister Waddington. What are you even talking about? Apparently you'd be unable to enjoy a meeting or derive any kind of benefit from the material if you're not acting like a robot and denying your maternal instincts, denying your duty as a mother to speak to your son when your son approaches you, when your son reaches out to you. This is the sort of mindless comment that you have to go along with and nod along with as a Jehovah's Witness. Oh yes, Sister Waddington has a point there. It wouldn't have any effect on her heart. The meeting would just be a total waste of time if she'd replied to the text message. It's a good thing she didn't reply to the text message, or the meeting would have been useless to her. The meeting is clearly more important than whether this mother has contact with her child. Unbelievable, mindless stupidity there, coming out of Sister Waddington's lips, earning her brownie points, I'm sure, if she is, as I suspect, an elder's wife. I'm sure Brother Waddington will have been filled with admiration for his wife when she was making those comments. But I, for one, am not remotely impressed. It's one thing to sit through this video because you're being forced to watch it and feel compelled to nod along, compelled to at least profess to agreeing with it, even though inside your humanity is screaming, this is wrong. It's another thing entirely to be getting yourself to the front of the queue to wax lyrical about this sort of inhumane, vile poison that's spewing out of Watchtower's audio-video department, and indeed out of the quote-unquote faithful slave or governing body. I, for one, am so glad that I no longer have to pretend that this stuff is okay. I mean, that particular scene, which Sister Waddington loved so much, of ignoring the text message, if you think about it, that was one of the most chilling scenes from the equivalent video in the Remain Loyal to Jehovah convention, where they see the phone ringing. Anything could have been happening to that disfellowshipped daughter, but the parents don't pick up the phone.
I tried to contact them. I just wanted to talk and to hear their voice. I missed being with my family, and they thought about reaching out to me. But they knew that if they had associated with me, even a little, just to check on me, that small dose of association might have satisfied me.
What if their daughter was being attacked? What if something truly awful was happening at that moment? Oh no, we need to be loyal. We can't answer the phone. We need to put our love of Jehovah, meaning Jehovah's organization, meaning Jehovah's Witnesses, first, and our maternal and paternal instincts second. So I felt it was important to go through this material. It's taken me by surprise, by the way. Maybe you've noticed. I didn't know until literally 24 hours ago, perhaps, that this was even a thing. But I feel it's important that we talk about it and that I prepare many of you who are viewers who have parents in this situation. It's important that we get a heads up, I think, and just brace ourselves for the damage that this vile and horrendous material is going to do in the minds of our loved ones. But that's everything I have to share with you. Don't forget to subscribe to the John Cedars channel for more such videos. And as always, thank you for watching.